Hi, everyone. Deborah Hamilton. I'm back, and I'm so glad to be here for the MAAP community program tonight. It is the second Wednesday in June. For the rest of the summer, we'll be having the MAAP community call the first Wednesdays in June because, well, the first Wednesdays all summer, not just in June, because everyone needs a break. And I'm working on so much exciting content, so I really want to take the time to focus on that. So if you're here tonight, I'm so glad. And if you are going to join us again soon, let me know if the first Wednesday will be better for you, because I'm thinking going forward that maybe once a month is a really good number to help people decide to plan for the care of their pets. I love meeting with my community every Wednesday. It really makes my heart sing. However, all of us are so busy that I'd like to make sure that we have maybe an hour together and then do it once a month instead of every Wednesday. Because that way we can really go into in-depth conversations. We can catch up with each other. We can see where we are in making our plans, and we can raise questions and hopefully bring friends with us, because it's so important for everyone to make a MAAP plan. And that was no more evident to me than at the National this weekend. But before I get into that, remember, we are meeting for the rest of the summer on the first Wednesday of each month, July, August, and September. And then we'll take a poll and see if you guys like it. And if you do, then we will continue it. And if you would like to go back to every Wednesday, I will do that, because I have to tell you, meeting with all of you every Wednesday is really the highlight of my life. However, I know that everyone's busy. So we're going to check in with everyone tonight, and then we're going to talk about our topic, which is really, I'm not dead yet. Because at the National, I realized that most people really have not made a plan for their pets. And all of you know, I've spoken about this before, making a plan for your pet is imperative, and making a plan for your pet, not just in your will, but outside your will, is even more important than making just a plan in your will. Because if you get ill and can't take care of your pets and your pets are placed, you don't get them back. But before I get into the whole nuts and bolts of that, let me check in with everyone, because I've been gone a week. I'll tell you all about the National. It was wonderful. We had a great time. It was terribly hot, 90 degrees during the show. So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, each day got hotter. There was no shade on top of the hill, which was a little disappointing. However, everyone put pop-ups and everyone shared, and everyone was, if they wanted to be out of the sun, they were able to get out of the sun. But the poor dogs couldn't get out of the sun because the ring was in the sun. So most of the judges made sure that the dogs were in the sun for the least amount of time and under the tent in the shade, because we have a really big tent, to make sure they stayed okay. We had ice and cool water, because did you know that if a dog is suffering from heat stroke or heat issues, you don't want to plunge them into an ice bath? Not what you do unless you're coming out of a sauna and you're a human and you like to do that kind of stuff. But with dogs and cats and birds, well, birds are thermal, but with dogs and cats, if they get overheated, it's better to raise their temperature or lower their temperature slowly. So you want to have maybe a little cooler than tepid, but you definitely don't want an ice cold bath for them to jump into. We did have coolers with ice water for the humans, and we had water near the ring that we kept adding a few ice cubes to every time we noticed everything was melted. We'd put a few more ice cubes in just to keep it a little bit cooler than, you know, lukewarm slop, which no one would want to jump into anyway. But nobody went down. We didn't need it. But it's interesting how you need to prepare for all of these things, especially, you know, if you're running a dog show, you're traveling with your pet, you know, you're stuck on the side of the road. Do you have shade? Do you have a place to take your pet to make them safe? You know, we talked about that too. But I'm going on and on. I can't wait to hear where everyone is and how everyone is. So I'm going to start with you, Jan. How's everything going?
Everything's really good. The only thing we're dealing with, and I'm sure that Sally's dealing with the same thing, is the air quality here. It's been so bad. And yesterday I came back from walking him and my eyes were like burning beyond belief. And today we limited our outdoor exposure, which is hard because, you know, they don't get it. He's like, why can't I go outside? And I'm like, no, hon, we're not going out. But otherwise we're really good. But it's, you know, just life with a pet.
I know, it's every day. And I have to tell you, my husband flew to New York today and he could not believe flying into New York what it looked like. He couldn't see any of the buildings. He said, I hope I can get home. I hope they don't turn, you know, the planes off because of the smoke being so bad. It really is. And I have to tell you, I'm in Eastern North Carolina and we have smoky, not like New York, but we have smoky air as well. It's really reaching very far, this fire from Canada. So wow. I'm so glad you brought it up. I was going to talk about it at the end, but we will talk about how important it is for you to recognize that if you can't breathe, your pets can't breathe, don't throw them outside because you don't want to go outside and breathe. They get affected by it as well. So thanks, Jan. I'm so glad you and Tonka are safe. And taking short walks because everybody's got to relieve themselves. However, making sure that that's all they do. That's what I did with my guys today. They just went in and out at, you know, five or 10 minutes, maybe max, to run around and come back in after I noticed this morning all of the yellow smoke in the air. So Sally, I know that you also told me that it's been awful up there and you live pretty close to Jan.
Yes, I would say it's awful. My throat is kind of scratchy. The girls are inside in the air conditioning. And yeah, it's such a surprise. I mean, we have a red sun and an orange sky, and it smells like Christmas with the smoke coming out of the chimneys. So it's they're saying possibly tomorrow a little bit better, but we're also taking it easy. We're spending more time indoors, and the girls, of course, don't understand why the walks are so short.
I know, but especially at their age. So people with older pets have to be even more cautious than me with a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old, because Mariah's back. So that's always fun. Every minute's a joy to be with her. And Junie is not feeling that way, but we'll chat about that later. But yes, when they're older, they really are susceptible to different issues. So it's good you're keeping the girls in. Thanks, Sally. Hey, Susan, how's everything in Virginia? Are you getting the smoke as well?
We are, and we're not expecting any good air until Sunday. So it's funny because I'm sorry about, you can hear Maggie, I'm guessing, but we're trying very hard to ignore, which is the advice Doug has given us. Yeah, I didn't even go out yesterday and my throat felt scratchy. I think the air is permeating through my walls. And the other thing is, if you let your dog out, should you wash or bathe them when they come back in? Because they're getting all that you know, that smoke in their fur and everything.
Well, it depends on how easy it is for you to do that. That's not necessarily so you could wipe them off with a wet rag to get some of the residue off. I would suggest wiping their face, their nose, their mouth, their eyes, because, you know, if your throat's scratchy and your eyes are burning, probably theirs are too. They just don't know how to raise their hand and say, ooh, this isn't feeling good. But as far as giving them a full bath, I don't know that that's necessary, but a nice, cool, wet towel, wiping them down just to get the residue off would probably be incredibly helpful. So today, as I said, I was going to talk about the I'm Not Dead part of the D's, right? There are, I think, 11 now. We're up to maybe even 12. And most of them have nothing to do with dying. Only one has something to do with dying. And when I was at the National with all of these people with all of these beautiful dogs that they have in amazing condition, Mariah looked like an unmade bed. She has to stay with me, I think, for a little while before National go forward because I've got to get her hair in order. It's ridiculous. It's a beauty contest, I know, but her hair was really pretty bad. but we love her. We love her anyway. And if you saw her, you'd say, what are you talking about? She's got the most beautiful coat and it's all laying down and Junie's all curly bow. But there are different, things that you look for. And I was talking to a number of women who said, I see when I look at your website that you talk about making a plan for the pets. I have everything in my will, but I really don't know where to find caregivers. And I said, well, have you put the plan in your will and have you put a plan outside your will? And they said, no, our attorney didn't tell us that we needed something outside of our will to care for our pets or to direct people about our pets. So we talked about 10 or 15 minutes and my girlfriend, Carolyn McAteer, was next to me telling them, you really do need to make a plan and you really do need to make a plan when you're alive, not just when you're dead. And that's the piece that I think is so frustrating when I speak to people and when I speak to big groups. I've just been asked to speak to another big breed group on how to do this, that they leave saying, well, I'm okay, I have everything in my will. But the biggest thing is that most people don't get the fact that their pets really need someone in place to care for them if something were to happen to them short term. And most of the time, everybody pops into action is when someone dies. But we've had several people pass away in the dog show world. And some of them, not all of them, but some of them, when people went in to see their dogs, the dogs were in terrible condition because they'd been sick for a long time. They either maybe had some dementia, had some Alzheimer's, had some mobility issues, and so couldn't really care for them. Some were very thin, some were unclean, and this isn't the way anybody wants their dogs to be found if they have to go to the hospital, or if they pass away. So what you want to do is you always want to make sure that if you have a friend who's older who has a pet, that you check in with them and make sure that they're okay and that they can really take care of the pet. It takes a village. We can't simply, and that's a delicate dance because older people don't really want you checking in to care for their pet for them because they're caring for their pet really well. It takes a lot of empathy and thoughtful conversation to make sure that the person can stay with their pet, can keep their pet, even though they're older, or they're ill, or maybe they're suffering from Alzheimer's or dementia, and being able to care for the pets until the people can no longer care for the pets or they pass away, will leave the pets in a situation that's so much better. First of all, the caregivers will know the pets so well by then that when they go to either keep them or place them, they know what kind of family the pet would really cling to and matriculate into easily. So it really is a double-edged sword. You want to be able to be independent with your pets. Oh, there's the Tonka boy. He knows we're talking, that he wants to be kept safe. It's a double-edged sword. We want to make sure that, we live alone with our pets and do what we want with our pets, and we take really good care of our pets. However, if we are ill, having the chutzpah, so to speak, to ask for help. And chutzpah might not be the right word. Maybe the right word is courage to ask for help, because you don't want someone to come in and take your dogs. You want someone to come in and help you with your dogs. And so if you don't have something written down, they may come in and take your dogs because they don't know you have the money to hire someone to come in and feed them and walk them and make sure they're bathed and their nails are clipped. They don't know that that's the plan you've made. I had a woman who made a huge plan and had everything in place, including her finances, and yet her plans for her pets were in her will. And so none of those plans came to fruition, and she actually recovered. However, all her dogs were gone by then. And then she wanted them back. And we've talked about that. Once a dog is placed with someone else, either through a rescue or maybe through a breeder, you can probably get the dogs back through litigation if the people will give it to you from a breeder, but from rescue, you will never get the dogs back, because once the dogs are relinquished from animal care and control into a rescue situation and are adopted, the laws are very straightforward. You cannot get your dog back, because they don't want people to not want to adopt a dog that needs a home through a rescue, because the owner can come back and take it whenever they want. So it's pretty damn strong that if your dog is adopted from a rescue, you're not going to get your dog back. So that's why you need to make these plans outside your will, because you're not dead yet, and you really want your pets to be cared for. Now, Susan, I'm going to ask you, have you written down any of the plans that would occur in the event something were to happen and you needed Maggie to have some care taken of her? Have you been able to call the vet? I know we were talking about that last time, that you were going to call the vet and see if a vet tech or a groomer would be able to take Maggie.
I had Maggie scheduled for another grooming, and I kind of held off a little bit because Doug wanted me to wait because of the need to do the sedation.
Right.
And so I'm guilty. I did postpone doing that because dealing with her behavior issues is kind of overwhelming.
Full-time
But I'm going back to the same people that worked with her before, and so they kind of took to her. It's a little inconvenient for me to go there, but I feel they had the best relationship with her, or so I'm hoping.
They understood her, which is key.
Yeah, I mean, they were much more, this is, you didn't get the feeling, oh, this is just a business. You got a feeling of, okay, I'm going to care about each dog that comes in. And so, yeah, I'm working toward that. And like you said, it takes courage. And, as I'm working with Doug, he's actually working with me over the phone. And because he hurt his shoulder and he couldn't drive. And so we've been consulting every few days on managing. And I think it's going to take a little bit of time because some of her behaviors are so ingrained at this point. Got tracks in her brain it's going to take a little bit of time. So I'm kind of working in that direction. She'll be 4 in August. So it's easy for me to kind of get in the groove of, oh, I have time. It doesn't have to be done immediately. It's always in the back of my mind. I've got so many things on my plate right now, to be honest.
I know.
I'm doing the best I can. Let me just say that. But I agree, writing things down can be very helpful.
Because then when someone comes to help with Maggie, they'll know her idiosyncrasies and everybody will stay safe, which is what you want. You certainly don't want anyone to be injured taking care of Maggie, and you don't want Maggie injured by anyone.
Right,
so it's always important to just at least make sure you have Maggie's idiosyncrasies and her needs and her personality written down and aware, so that people can take care of.
I'm hoping that will change, that I can write down some more positive things. Yesterday I had someone come to the house. She was only here probably 15, 20 minutes. Maggie barked nonstop the whole time she was here. She kept saying, I like dogs. And Maggie would not stop barking. But thankfully, she did approach the visitor. There was no attempt to bite or do anything to harm that person.
Yeah.
It was just the barking. And Maggie did bite me, though, last week. She chomped on my hand, and I have to be extremely careful with Maggie.
Yeah. So make sure you write that down, because that's really, really important.
Yeah, definitely.
So Jan, how about you? Have you done anything again I know you have a caregiver, which was great when your dad died. You were able to leave Tonka in the care of one or two people, but are you, have you written all of that down so that everybody knows what Tonka is like?
They know what Tonka's like because they've been around him so much, but
That's so important because, you know, you can write things down, but if you allow the dog to matriculate with people so they know him, that's even better.
and so, you know, he spent a lot of time with both of them, but that's great as we talk about if they can take him. But if for some reason somebody else had to take him, you know, I need that information for them, like the different things, like he hates storms,
Yeah.
you know,
And I heard
so,
there were bad storms there yesterday.
yeah, not, we didn't have any right here, but we've had, you know, last week we had one night where it was really stormy. And so just anybody who takes them has to know that, you know.
Yeah.
So,
Key.
right. So for the people that are close that, you know, like I said, have taken him before, they know him, but for everybody else, because I can't assume that they're going to be available. I mean, I would love to assume that they're always going to be around if I need them. But, you know, like my friend's going away and I'm actually watching her dogs. Now, normally she would be one of the people I would give Tonka to if
Something happened.
happened, right? And she's going to be away on vacation. So
So who is her heir and a spare? You're her heir. Who's her spare?
I don't think she has them, no matter what I say. But yes, I'm her,
You're her heir and her spare. And
I'm
God,
her and her spare at the moment.
it's interesting. I'm so glad you said that because most people just have one person as a backup. And as I tell you, I broke my ankle in 2013, which created this entire program. I had two people lined up to take my pets. One had broken her wrist like the week before I broke my ankle, and the other one was renovating her kennel. Now, who would ever think that someone who has a huge dog kennel could not take your dog because she was renovating? She cut down half her kennels, and she had her dogs and she had people lined up to board. So no, she couldn't. And I sat there and I said, who would have thought the perfect storm happens? Which is why I'm always such a stickler. I know that I only want to leave my dogs with my husband or with Rachel down the street, who's the neighbor, or even the neighbor nearby. However, it really is important to make sure that there is someone there who can take care of your dog at the very least. I think both of you have a fenced-in backyard, correct? So both of you then have a really difficult situation because we know Maggie doesn't let anybody put a leash or collar on her. So walking her is a challenge, I'm sure. If you don't have a fenced-in backyard, you must be putting a collar and a leash on her to walk her, unless she wears one all the time and you just clip it. And Jan, you know that it's always better if some stranger has to come and take your dog, that they know everything about Tonka so that Tonka doesn't get frightened because who are you and where's my mother? Most of our dogs will say that. If you do have a fenced-in backyard and your dog does intend to jump over the fence, then the best thing to do is really befriend a neighbor and say, listen, I can't get home. Can you just let them out? Can you throw them some cookies? Nobody's dog is going to die if they eat dog cookies for 24 to 48 hours. They'll think they've died and gone to heaven because they're only getting cookies, and they'll be very happy. However, my big thing for my dogs is I worry because of the bunny fetish that Junie has, that if anyone ever took Junie on a walk, he'd be gone, because he'd go after the bunny and then there wouldn't be the whistle that was calling him back, because they don't whistle like me. So I always make sure that if somebody comes, they just use the backyard, which is something to consider. So if you have a dog that you have to walk, and I have to say that when I take my dogs to Florida, there's no backyard. My son lives in an apartment, and so there won't be any way to let him out. So we set up a whole situation with people who are nearby, who I know from the dog show world, from the National, from the same breed, different breeds, to make sure the pets are well cared for if something were to happen to me. I know this is a difficult concept, and we all know this is never going to happen to us, because it's just never going to happen to us. And when I broke my ankle, I didn't realize that it happens to me. And now with my husband in New York, the smog the way it is. Who's to know if the airlines won't say it's too foggy? I know that when volcanoes happen, but I think that's the schmutz in the air, not just the smoke in the air, that creates the inability to fly through it. But we are in uncertain times, and we really need to make plans for our pets, both if we pass away or if we don't. So to reiterate, when I was at the National, so many people said, well, we don't know about this. And I'm hopeful that some of them will tune in and join us on our community calls the first Wednesday of every month for the rest of the summer. We will take a poll in September and see if we want to go back to 4 or if we like it at 1 a month, because I really want to make sure everyone gets the information they need to make sure that their pets are cared for. I know all of you who come regularly. I'm so grateful, first of all, because you have so much great information to share. And I want to share with everyone that they should go and listen to Jan's podcast, because it's one of the highest hit podcasts of Why Do Pets Matter, because she talks about such important things having to do with caring for your pet. And then Jan, you're having something coming up the end of June, correct?
Yeah, I have.
I can plug you.
Yeah, I can't. Thank you. I have 2 programs, actually. I have a yoga and Reiki kind of fusion workshop on June 25th. And then I have a 4-part series starting in July and August called The Magical Anatomy of the Breath, which is all about breathing and everything that's involved in breathing. So,
oh my God, I love that, because I tell all of the people who in my conferences, I tell everyone, if you can breathe in and breathe out, breathe in 4, breathe out 4, you will be able to flip from your amygdala to your prefrontal cortex much quicker than just answering without breathing. It really is so important. If you are able, send those links so Rose can put them in the show notes.
Sure.
And that way everybody can sign up. I am hopefully going to go to the breathing one, because I'm taking the summer, as can be imagined, because I'm only going to be here once a month. I'm taking the summer, as I said at the beginning of the call that some of you missed, that I'm really going to work on the MAAP plan and bring it to a place where it hopefully will reach more people, because we all know how important it is. And we all tell our friends, as Jan said, we all tell our friends and they don't do anything about it. And they expect us to take their pets in the event something happens, and we will. And that's not the issue. The issue is if we can't, because we're out of town or we're sick or, we have an emergency, the guilt that's put on us because we can't come and get Deborah's dogs because, I'm out of town. I actually went on vacation. So it really is important to have an heir and a spare and a spare. And it really is important to have a nosy neighbor. And it really is, as the topic of tonight was, it really is important to have a plan outside your will. Your trust and estate attorneys will not really know what to do or how to do it. So join us for one of the workshops. We'll probably be having another one in September after I revamp everything, and come and join us to make these plans to care for your pet, long-term and short-term, because if you're not dead yet, your pet could be in peril, and wouldn't you want to have it back if you get better? I know all of you would. So this is Deborah Hamilton, and this is the Why Do Pets Matter podcast and MAAP community call. I love the fact that all of you are here. Go to the podcast, listen to some of the podcasts, but also come again on the 5th of July, right after the holiday. So I hope all of you can join me the 5th of July at 6:30 for the next MAAP community meeting for the summer. Have a great June. Stay safe. Make sure the babies stay safe. So that would be Athena and Roxy and Maggie and Tonka and the Beagle puppies and Yoda, who isn't here tonight, but I know that she listens to these podcasts. So until then, kiss your babies for me. Thanks, everyone.
Deborah, how do we access the show notes?
So when you get the note from Rose, and Rose can get on to correct me if I'm wrong, but when you get the link to the show notes are in link that you get, the email that you get. It gives the person, it gives all the information that I've given that day. Correct, Rose? Am I correct?
Pretty much. Once people click through to the actual recording of the video, the description under the video will include any of the pertinent links, mentions of who was actually speaking, and any other information that Deborah has asked me to.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're
Thank you.
very
Appreciate
welcome.
that.
Because it really is important that when we do these things, that people can reach out to the people who've given us such great information to share with our listeners, especially Jan, because she's given us such wonderful programs to partake in with our pets and by ourselves. Because, you know, in this day and age, being able to take care of yourself is really important. So until July 5th, everyone take care.